Well, I think cash transfer has been around for some years, and I would say at least 5 years ago, this was an issue, or became a little more prominent in this country. And I think now it has become even more and more important.
I'm not sure I can trace it to one particular event or date or intervention.
I think it was many decades ago actually. Well, government policy on cash transfers has been very inconsistent.
Most people think that it has come out in debate only in the context of the food security thing. It's a very, very old exercise, and we have many cash transfers which are currently going on. I mean, all the social pensions in that sense are cash transfers, whether you're a widow pension, old age pension, or your social disability pension. Even your scholarships are cash transfers. All forms of scholarships are cash transfer. So we have an existing method, I mean, we have an existing model, and cash transfers have existed for quite a long time.
In terms of food security, it's really very recent. It's just come. It's come now.
We've known since the work of Kirit Parikh in the late 80s that a transfer of 1 rupee of subsidy, food subsidy, involves several rupees. I think his estimate was 3 or 4 rupees, and then if you talk about the bottom 20%, it increases a lot. So essentially the idea was that why should it cost 4 rupees to transfer 1 rupee of subsidy to the poor or to anybody, to any household? With cash transfers, that cost can be brought down considerably.
That why do you want people to go with an Aadhaar card, ration shop or a grain shop and buy only food grains? Why do you insist that they must buy food grains? You should go to a cash transfer, and you could be conditional cash transfer. You could say this amount of cash is available to you for buying wheat, but even that is not required. You can say I will give you unconditional cash transfer. That would be even more effective. And trust people, they will sensibly use the money in the best interest of their family. And you should really give them the freedom to do that.
I think the point is that where it works effectively, that's good, well and good, fine. But there are many parts of the country where it doesn't work well and good. So if Tamil Nadu it works well, if somebody wishes to replicate it and does well, that's fine too. But there should be room for alternatives. There should be room for experimentation, and the debate should not be closed.
So what we started also doing is to bring more recent evidence to these debates, and when the new evidence came in, you could see that things had changed. Yeah, that the debate was still stuck in time, and that actually on the ground things were changing quite a bit and quite rapidly in some cases. So I think that's where this sort of big debate started happening, that is it really the case that the PDS can work, or should we just junk it and move to cash transfers?
The argument was that since look, the PDS is leaky, the PDS is inefficient, then you go to a system of cash transfer, and then it will become, there will be less leakages. But there are two parts of that whole assumption. One part of the assumption is that it is going to be less leaky, less leakages. That itself is not a valid assumption to begin with, in a sense, because when you are trying to cover a large majority of the population, then you need to have banking facilities, people have to be financially literate, and then all those things have to be there. The penetration of bank branches and all those things are important. But more than that, the real issue on which the cash transfer debate actually did not go into, and then a lot of them did not go into, because most of them thought the cash transfer as superior to the in-kind transfers or the PDS kind of a system in terms of financial efficiency. But that is not the purpose. The Food Security Act, the purpose of that is not to give you, how the money is efficiently spent. That is not the whole purpose of it. Your purpose is to basically make sure that people do consume more food and their nutrition status improves. On that debate, there is no argument that cash are better or food is better. Empirical data basically very clearly shows that if you give the same equivalent amount of money, money, and you give in-kind transfer, that is grains or other things in kind, the likelihood of that getting consumed is twice. So the probability of the person actually consuming those foods and its impact on calorie consumption is roughly twice that of equivalent of cash.
Often people think that because of in-kind transfers, the nutrition impacts are somehow greater. Actually, it has not been demonstrated. In economic theory, it cannot be true. And the couple of studies which have used control and treatment groups, there was a cash transfer study in Delhi and the one in Madhya Pradesh, they have shown that's not the case. There is no significant difference in nutrition whether you get in kind or in cash.
What we have seen, so we did a big study in 2001 in 9 states, and we asked in rural areas, and we asked people, we said, okay, what do you think of this idea that we close down your ration shop and we give you enough cash in your bank account that you would buy the same bundle of goods that you're getting from the PDS, you would be able to afford it at market prices from a market shop. And so we put that money in your account, and what do you think of it? Which one? So then after that you have this long discussion with people, and then they have to kind of sort things out, and often you can see that they're debating in their own head, Kya this is a good thing about it, that's a bad thing, And so what are the main findings? First thing we learned is that 2/3 of the people in our sample, they said they wanted to stick with food, and they had pretty good reasons for it. So one is that the ration shops are pretty close to them, and banks are far, banks are overcrowded, they're not even able to deal with the volumes that they're being asked to deal with currently. So if you move everyone to cash transfers, the volumes are going to go up even more. Getting to the bank and coming back is expensive, so the transaction costs may increase as a result of shifting to cash transfers. Banks and markets may not be in the same place. People don't feel confident, and of course people can learn over a period of time, and I'm not denying that, but the fact that these are really poor people, one has to take that reservation into account. Even for me, if tomorrow IIT Delhi tells me that we're not going to pay your salary into State Bank of India, you have to open a new account in Canara Bank, I'm going to be pretty irritated about it, because opening a bank account is not a simple, for us, even for us, it's an irritation. At least it's an irritation, if not a nuisance. So for these poor people, those sorts of transitions are quite important, and very often in economics, people don't talk about these transition costs in a transparent and upfront manner. So these transaction costs are likely to go up because banks are far, and you may spend a day's wage getting there, you spend money on the bus, or if there is a bus, in fact, in those areas. But there are also transition costs associated with it.
And if you look at the history of the nutrition debate, in the sense the whole food security debate started from the fact that we still are a country where the per capita incomes have doubled, almost tripled now, and in the last 2-3 decades. But it has not led to any impact on the nutritional status. So if it was just a question of people getting more money, then obviously malnutrition should have been wiped out, because growth is the biggest cash transfer. Growth is the biggest cash transfers, and you are growing at 8 to 9%, you are growing at 8 to 9%, but even in the earlier part from 80s onward, you have been growing at 6%, which is not bad. 6% rate of growth for about 25 years is a very decent standard of growth. But if that has not led to any dent in the malnutrition status, then giving more money is not likely to lead you to improvement in nutrition status.
Now, there are only 2 arguments against it, I think, serious ones. One is infrastructure. Do we have is it even feasible? I can readily see there's some parts of the country where you cannot do it. The payment infrastructure doesn't exist, the access to bank accounts is not there, and so on and so forth. The other objection is that really, how do you take care of price volatility? Okay, so I think that can be taken care of. I think we can have indexed cash transfers. The indexing can happen twice a year, and so on and so forth. We have those price indices, we have those costs, it can be done, it's not a problem. And it should be done in a way that is not left to the discretion of some committee, but it should be done in a very automatic way as soon as So now currently what we see is that there is a lot of momentum on financial inclusion, okay, and there is no specific debate about the Food Security Act itself, but there's a lot of momentum on financial inclusion that has been identified as a priority, and the use of things like Aadhaar to authenticate transactions and so on and so forth. Now, essentially, if there is financial inclusion, if there is a way to authenticate transaction, and if there is a way to get that last mile connectivity, then your payments infrastructure is basically there. You can use it for any number of purposes. You can use it for NREGA wage payments, you can use it to pay pensions, and you can use it for cash transfers. So I think what the current thing is that right now we are building capabilities. So maybe the cash transfer thing is a premature option for some parts of the country, but it may not be so, let's say 4 years, 5 years now, if this infrastructure is developed.
The cash transfer, as I said, is designed to address the BPL issue. Okay, it does not in itself address the accessibility issue. Right? And in the debate, the accessibility issue is simply not coming in. Supposing I go in for 100% cash transfer, I do away with the PDS shops. All right, how do I ensure that enough food grains come to the urban market? I have no instrument to do that. The only instrument I have is the PDS system. So, in a sense, this either or debate, that PDS or cash transfer, to my mind is the wrong debate. The real debate should be cash transfer or BPL. PDS for BPL. That should be the right. The PDS has to be there in the urban areas, otherwise you cannot assure accessibility.